Well, that was annoying. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, powered by BetUS, where we will talk about all the reasons why that was an extraordinarily annoying 120 to 111 loss to the Detroit Pistons at home at Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks were not able to extend their 4-game winning streak, where they were not able to finish off their homestand on a high note. And where I'm just going to start here. I know this is probably not at the forefront of many people's minds, but it is certainly at the forefront of mine, where they certainly did not honor the, I don't know how many of them we would call legends, but just the alumni. Let's call it the alumni that were in the house for this thing that the Knicks organization concocted for tonight, where they were going to have a bunch of former Knicks back in the building. I don't know what the final number was. It seemed like it was in the dozens. They did not honor those guys, and I, or maybe I guess there were some Knicks there that were on some not so great teams, so maybe they did honor them in their own way, because this was not a great effort. And like, this is for a crummy loss, a bad loss on a Saturday night. That is not like, it's not an alarming loss. It's not, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, this is a really concerning loss. You can't say that about a game or a team that came into this game with the best net rating in the league over the last, whatever it was, 12 or 13 games. Like, even teams that are good have off nights, and nobody brings it all 82 games. I get all that. It's a bad loss. It's an annoying loss. And I will go so far as to say it's not an inexcusable loss, because they had one big excuse right off the bat. No Karl-Anthony Towns tonight. Also no campaign for another game. So, like, again, I don't want to throw around too many superlatives, because for as frustrated as I think a lot of us are feeling right now, I don't think the loss is worthy of those, that sort of language. But I after the first thing I said, which is that you didn't honor the legends that were in the house, the next most annoying thing for me is that this was a game where you came out without any kind of level of seriousness or engagement or connectivity or attention to detail or attachment to one another. Any of those things. Forget transition defense. This was as bad a transition defense in the first 5-6 minutes of the game as you're going to see a good team play. You didn't come out with any of that. You were sloppy with the ball pretty much the whole game. And yes, Jalen Brunson, I know you had a really nice scoring night. I'm looking at you, man, because it's very rare that we have to be critical of Jalen Brunson for his playmaking and how he leads the show and his ball control and all that sort of stuff, especially this year, where he has been one of the top, guys in that category in the league, to say nothing of his scoring exploits. But, you had the defense, you had the kicking the ball around, you had a lack of attention to detail on the defensive glass. I don't know how many offensive rebounds that the Detroit Pistons ended up with, but it was too many. You had all that. You had no Towns. You had no Payne. You were out there, you had a rookie out there playing, 58th pick in the draft, playing significant minutes. We're going to talk about Huck Porty. I think he did some nice things. I think he did mostly nice things. Let's just leave it at that. I think he did mostly nice things. And I don't think anybody on the Knicks played particularly well. Who had a good game for the Knicks tonight? I'm looking up and down. I mean, yeah, I don't know that I could say that any one player had what I would define as a good game compared to what expectations would be. You want to tell me Huck Porty? Given that, again, he's a rookie, he's the 58th pick in the draft, and he came in and he gave them a nice spark, I think, on the defensive side of the ball, him and Precious. It was great to see Precious out there. We're going to talk a lot about Precious and the defense that he was able to play and what that portends for the Knicks going forward. So you had nobody played a good game. He had all the other stuff I talked about. And yet, despite all of that, this was a 2-point game in the fourth quarter. So that for me, almost as much as the fact that you came out there and you disrespected all the former Knicks that were in the house, that's why this game is going to stick in my craw. I know they had won 4 in a row. I know, the team's been by and large playing much better. This was not a night where they hit threes. I think they finished under, actually, hold on. Let me update my page here. They finished under a third of their threes made. So that was another thing. Oh, I forgot the free throws. The best free throw shooting team in all of the NBA. Sure enough, I sent out a skeet yesterday saying the Knicks are making a run a quarter of the way through the season at being the first team in NBA history to have a 50, 40, 80 shooting season. So what do they do tonight? They go out there and they shoot under 60% from the free throw line. They went 16 to 27. So you miss 11 free throws and a 9-point loss. I like, how about that for some symmetry? So again, the reasons I could make a Jenga tower out of the reasons that this loss was annoying. And if you want to have the top row of that Jenga tower be the fact that, and I'm a shout out Kevin Danishevsky, who had on the halftime Zoom, shout out to all the Knicks Film School newsletter subscribers. He's like, famous last words. But he's like, you know what? I'm actually happy that they're in this game because they could use a tough win. And obviously he knew what he was saying. And it's like, well, I'd much rather an easy win than an attempt at a tough win that ends up with a loss. But I got what he was going for, right? Because this team has not, had many toe-to-toe battles down the stretch where they have come out on top. That's why, I think this game was very reminiscent of the Bulls game. Although they managed to that got down to the wire. It was like honestly, it was a combination of the Bulls game and the Jazz game. The Bulls game had the big comeback. There was a big comeback at the end of the third quarter in this one. We're going to talk about that. And it was also like the Jazz game too, because like they came out, were not serious enough on defense, and they let Utah get in a rhythm, and then to the point where they couldn't get them out of the rhythm that they had gotten themselves into. Much like tonight, lo and behold, Detroit Pistons, 50% from three. So this is now the third time in the last however many games it happened against Utah, and it happened against Dallas. So the Knicks' last 3 losses, they've allowed a team to shoot 50% from three. Now, you could look at that if you want, and you could say, and this is going to get us into the more substantive analysis of the game, as opposed to all the things that I'm just annoyed with. You could look at that and you say, well, that's a good sign, right? It takes teams shooting 50% from three to beat the Knicks. Okay, if you want to look at it like that, you could look at it like that. That's fine. But, well, just to finish off my previous point, I'm going to go back to the 3-point shooting. They couldn't stay connected, and they let go of the rope at home. So that was annoying. Back to the 3-point shooting. I kind of look at it a different way, which is that when you come out and you do not give the level of attention to detail in how you are defending basic shit, and you allow pretty much any NBA team. I was gonna make a joke, any NBA team outside of the Wizards, but guess what? The Wizards tonight went and beat the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic putting up one of the greatest stat lines you'll ever see in an NBA game. So I guess if you're frustrated as a Knicks fan right now, just be thankful you're not a Nuggets fan. Anyway, if you come out with that without the attention to detail on defense, you're going to get burned. And it is a tightrope to walk. If you're going to be like, it's all right, we'll flip the switch when the time comes. And we've seen them do this lately. They kind of started poorly in, their last game against the Hornets. They obviously started very poorly in the Hornets game before that. I'm pretty sure If I'm probably they started poorly against the Magic, and they overcame that. So like, this is becoming a little bit too much of a habit where the attention to detail is not there out of the gate, and they are letting these teams get comfortable. And if you let teams get comfortable, you're going to get stat lines like Cade Cunningham, 5 of 8 from behind the arc. Malik Beasley, 7 of 10 from behind the arc. Now, Malik Beasley has been one of the best 3-point shooters in basketball for several years now, which makes it both more excusable and much, much less excusable, because it's like, yeah, a guy like that is capable of getting hot. The fact that he got some of the looks that he did, and look, I've been very critical of them. The Knicks, I want to give credit where credit is due. They fell down by 17 points in the first half. They fought all the way back. They got it to within 2. I thought their run, I know Cade Cunningham was off the floor, but I thought their run at the end of the third quarter, the last 5 minutes of the third quarter, that's the best defense that we've seen this team play all year, which is reason number 18 or whatever the hell I'm up to, why this game was annoying. Because in a game or for a 5-minute stretch, I know Cade was off the floor, even considering that, where they played, I thought, their best stretch of defense that they have played in the entire season. In that same game, you saw all of this poppycock defense. And was there a more symbolic moment of that than as they are trying to make that run? After they made the run, after the Pistons pushed back, but they got it down to, I think it was 115, 109? They were like trying to make one like last push, or actually what ended up being probably like the second to last or the third to last push, whatever it was. But they were making their little run, and then I think the Pistons called timeout. So yeah, I think it was down to 6. And what happens out of the timeout? There's a double up top, because that's what they decided to start doing. They decided to start doubling Cade. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And all it was miscommunication between OG Anunoby and Josh Hart, who I think you'd probably argue have been the Knicks' 2 best defenders pound for pound on the year. You want to give me a little deuce in that conversation? All right, I'll hear that. Little tip of the cap to campaign, but like, we're talking about OG Anunoby and Josh Hart. Are there any 2 defenders from this Knicks season who you want involved in an action with the defensive action with the game on the line? The answer was no. And those 2 guys got mixed up, and Malik Beasley had he checked the seams. Like, that tells me, and now I'm going to get into, or I'm going to kind of start to wrap it up, and we'll get to the super chats with like the substantive analysis of this game, which is that the fact that they can still have this type of game defensively is a sign that they have not figured it all out yet, number one. Number 2, this is not all on Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't know that anybody really thought it was, but for anybody who maybe did think it was, this is not all on Karl-Anthony Towns. But, and I'm gonna try to end on a positive here. So you saw them struggle defensively out of the gate. Then I thought they played better defense in the second quarter. It still didn't work great. And then as they started to get back into the game in the third quarter, they started going with a really much more aggressive style and doing something which we really don't see them do hardly ever. And they have not done really, if at all, this year. I don't think they've done it much, which is starting to put 2 on the ball and then trusting the rotation, not only trusting the rotations, but trusting that in applying more ball pressure, you're going to end up with some turnovers, which they did in the third quarter. And that's how they got back in the game. And it was awesome to see. So it is game 23, and they are still experimenting. Now, is it experimentation out of necessity because the Pistons were absolutely merciless in putting Jalen Brunson in action after action after action, and that is the advantage that you can get when you have a 6 foot, whatever the hell Cade is, 6'7" lead ball handler, and he's surrounded by size and shooting. In a weird way, this is actually a really, I know the Knicks have won 8,000 games against the Pistons in a row before tonight, but all of a sudden, this Pistons team has become a little bit of a tricky matchup for the Knicks, especially on a night like tonight where your best option at center is 6'8" in Precious Achiuwa. So, and obviously you didn't have Towns to stretch the Pistons defense in the way, and I thought some of the Knicks offensive struggles tonight. It should go without saying, it should be the lead of this game. The first thing you say about this game is that Karl-Anthony Towns didn't play, because it absolutely was massive. But if we're talking about the stuff on defense, anyway, so they're still trying stuff. And I like that. Did it go well tonight? No. Not always. It went well for a while, and it was really it was cool to see for a while. At the end of the day, did they give up more than they got from it, with all the open shots towards, especially in the fourth quarter? Yeah, they did. But it's a work in progress. And we knew that this season would be, or at least for me, it would be an 82-game work in progress to try to figure out how they are going to put forth not only a serviceable defense, but a defense that could reach something more than serviceable and be really good. And again, we saw that tonight. So good job by them for a period of time. And a versatile defense. And that's the other part that I'm coming out of this kind of encouraged. This worked for a while. And it's not something that we've necessarily seen a lot. Couple more things. A big part of the fact why they were able to play this defense and why I'm very fascinated by the minutes distribution moving forward at the backup center position, as well as what they may try to do with the trade deadline. Because a big part of what they were trying to do involved switching Precious Achiuwa and having not a switch 1 through 5 defense, because they weren't switching Brunson, but they were switching Achiuwa left and right, and you could do that with Precious. And that was giving the Pistons real problems. With Hukporti, I thought Hukporti, they tried some aggressive defense with him as well. Not quite as switch everything as Achiuwa, but what they did with Hukporti, I thought Hukporti did a couple of nice things. Also, some not nice things, again, because he's a rookie. But I thought he gave them some decent minutes. So that's interesting to me. And it is interesting to me for a lot of reasons, which we don't have to talk too much about right now, but I just wanted to note that we saw it. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and give the autograph signature moment of the game. I know this was not when they got their closest, but my favorite moment of the game was the Precious Achiuwa block. It was after they made a nice defensive play, but the ball somehow ended up, I think it was back in Jalen Duren's hands. And I don't know how Precious Achiuwa blocked the shot at the rim, but he somehow blocked the shot at the rim. He got the ball to Jalen Brunson, who then got the ball back to Precious Achiuwa on what was Jalen Brunson's, might have been his best pass of the season. I know he did not have a great game playmaking, too many turnovers, but that was his best pass of the season for a dunk and what should have been an and one. Of course, Precious Achiuwa misses the and one, and there's OG Anunoby for a putback to essentially cap a I kind of consider it a 6-point play, because the fact that you took 2 off the board at the other end with the Achiuwa block, and then you got the Achiuwa dunk and then the Anunoby dunk. It brought it down to a 7-point game. And they kept pushing after that and eventually got it to within 2, and then, ran out of gas. So it is what it is. Again, that was our autograph signature moment of the game. Shout out to Autograph. Go download the Autograph app. Use code KFS when you do, so you can go in there and do all the stuff that you love to do already. Listen to podcasts, watch YouTube clips, read newsletters or blogs or anything you do, and get rewarded for your fandom with Autograph. Okay. I think I hit on everything that I wanted to hit. I'm sure there's a minutes conversation to be had tonight. Jalen Brunson played 44. I don't think he sat in the second half. That is a lot. I know he didn't play hardly. He only played 27 minutes in the last game, but he was also a game time decision tonight. And for a guy who was a game time decision to play 44 minutes that's something, to say nothing of Anunoby with 39 and Bridges with 38 and Josh Hart with 39. Shout out to Josh Hart. Not a happy camper tonight. Not a happy camper. But again, this is what you get when no Towns, no campaign. And when you have a starter in Jericho Sims, I haven't said Jericho Sims' name, and that's probably because I forgot he even played tonight. Played 6 minutes. He started the game, played 6 minutes, didn't check back in. And honestly, we've seen games like that before, by the way. I'm not sure I blame Sims, because Sims right now, and someone who was a commenter in the newsletter who made this comment. I forget who it was. I apologize. I wish if I had it up, I'd give you credit, but it was a good comment. There is an inconsistency with Sims that is not really tenable for a role player of his nature. The whole thing about role players is you come in and you play your role. And Sims has been very hot and cold this year. Started the season cold, then he got hot, and now he's back to being cold. So I don't mind the quick hook, because Sims thus far in his career, like when he doesn't have it at start, you kind of know he doesn't have it. And I personally didn't want to see any more Sims after his opening stint in this game. So yeah, there was that. Last thing, and then we'll start the super chats. Shout out to Cade Cunningham. He is, I mean, it's a little early for this because we still have, close to 20 games to go before we even reach the midway point of the season. But I would be pretty hard pressed to find 12 Eastern Conference players that are more deserving of an all-star nod than Cade Cunningham. And this was as good a game as certainly I have seen him play. Not only against the Knicks, I think this was as good a game as I've seen him play. And, I know this, people could focus on the second half, and they weren't able to complete the comeback and all that. They were sloppy and they didn't play great defense and all that stuff. Throughout the entire first half, it seemed like every time the Knicks were trying to make that push to, you heard Breen talk about it. Every time they were trying to make that push to get it under 7, 8, 9, 10 points, whatever, there was Cade Cunningham with a big three. And he had five threes tonight. All of them were in the first half. And sometimes first half threes could be even more important than second half threes, because I thought the Knicks, if they had gotten it back to basically tied or within a possession or something in that first half, they were going to win this game. And the fact that Cade always had a three for him when they got it to within kind of sort of striking distance, I thought that was so big, to say nothing of his passing and just complete and total control. I think Cade Cunningham was a plus 16 in this game, and that probably doesn't really even speak to his impact. 29, 15, and 10. Outstanding game from Cade Cunningham.